Welcome to the history section. So by September of 1804, the entire character of the expedition begins to change. We're looking at them ascending the Missouri River into what's now South Dakota.
And the physical reality of the journey becomes incredibly stark here. This is no longer just exploration.
No, it's pure grinding labor. The sources are filled with descriptions of the difficulty.
Immense difficulty. The river is sluggish, and the men, and this includes the captains, are in the water, hauling tow ropes.
Constantly.
Constantly. They're perpetually wet, dealing with rain, with cold. It's just a raw, miserable environment.
And that kind of constant exposure, it forces them to adapt very, very quickly. Survival becomes about the gear they can make themselves.
Exactly. We see them making hide coats, leggings, moccasins. They're hunting deer and immediately turning those hides into essential clothing.
They're literally wearing their subsistence.
They are. And they're even stretching hides over the two pirogues to create some kind of shelter from the elements. It's all about self-reliance.
There's a really telling detail about the youngest member of the company, Peter.
Yes. Peter. He's basically being outfitted by the other men.
Patrick Gass, the carpenter, and Cruzat step in.
Right. They outfit him with buckskin. And this isn't just a kind gesture. It's a practical move.
You can't have a liability.
You can't. By gearing him up, they're making him a functional member of the team, someone who can endure the conditions and contribute. It shows how everyone's survival was linked.
And just before the major encounters with the local indigenous peoples, they're dealing with their own internal issues.
George Shannon
returns. He'd been lost for 2 weeks.
And nearly starved. I mean, his ordeal just speaks volumes about how unforgiving this territory was. But his return is a mixed blessing.
Because of the horses.
Exactly. He was sent out scouting with horses, and he comes back with only one. That loss of mobility is a serious blow.
And almost immediately, their attention is forced outward. They see a great smoke.
A signal. The presence of the Teton Sioux.
The first contact is tentative. 3 indigenous boys swim the river.
They identify themselves as Tetons from the villages nearby. And Lewis, he handles it by the book, at least initially.
He directs that they be given tobacco, a standard diplomatic opening.
A sign of peace, yes. And he requests a formal council for the next morning. But that attempt at civility is just immediately shattered.
By an act of theft?
Reuben Fields is dressing an elk he's just killed, and while he's occupied, his horse is stolen by some of the local men.
Coming right after Shannon's losses, Lewis's reaction is, well, it's furious.
It is. He understands this is a test. A horse isn't just transportation. It's a symbol of power, of wealth. And for the expedition, it's absolutely essential for what lies ahead.
So he can't let it stand.
He cannot allow the idea of plunder to take root. If the Tetons think they can steal with impunity, the expedition is in serious trouble. It's a line in the sand.
And their most experienced man, Driard, confirms their worst fears.
His assessment is blunt. Those Tetons have bad hearts. That's not just an opinion. It's an expert warning based on extensive regional knowledge. He's telling Lewis to expect the worst.
So this stolen horse now dictates the entire tone of their next meeting.
Completely. 5 Tetons are sighted on the bank. The barge halts, and Lewis gives Driard very specific, very hard instructions.
It's an ultimatum.
It's a clear ultimatum. Driard is to communicate that the horse belonged to their great father at Washington.
That framing is so important.
It is. It elevates the theft from a personal loss to an insult against the United States itself. The message is simple. Return the horse, or there will be no council.
He also adds that they're willing to be friends, but that they have no fear. It's a careful balance.
A balance of diplomacy and threat. But the problem is how much of that nuance actually gets across.
The interpretation.
It's a huge issue. Driard is relying on sign language and what few Sioux words he knows.
So the response they get is ambiguous.
Very. They interpret it as a denial. They haven't seen the horse, but a vague promise to return it if it's found.
And then there's that odd detail about Cruzat.
It's almost comical. Cruzat, who speaks no Sioux at all, chimes in to confirm the interpretation. It just shows the level of confusion and maybe some wishful thinking.
They decide to make camp at the mouth of the Teton River, a place they later rename the Bad River.
For good reason. And the security that night is incredibly stringent.
A direct response to the theft and Driard's warning.
Absolutely. Most of the men sleep on the boats, guns ready. Only a tiny crew is allowed ashore, and only to guard the cook fires. They're on a full war footing.
The next morning, the formal council begins. The U.S. flag is hoisted. 60 Teton warriors arrive.
And the captains are immediately observing, taking notes. They compare their physical appearance to the Yanktons they'd met earlier.
They're described as less physically imposing, smaller, slim, with crooked legs.
But Lewis and Clark aren't naive. They understand that physical stature has nothing to do with political or military power, and the Tetons are the undisputed power in this region.
Lewis gives his speech, but again, the language barrier is a major problem. Driard is struggling.
It's doubtful much of the diplomatic substance gets through, but the next part of the ceremony is visual. It's about distributing honors.
This is an attempt to impose a familiar structure, isn't it? A hierarchy.
Precisely. They're trying to establish the president as the Great Father, themselves as his emissaries, and Black Buffalo as their chosen primary contact.
So Black Buffalo, the head chief, gets the premium gifts.
The best, yes. A large medal, a flag, a formal red coat with white lace, and a cocked hat with a prominent red feather. These are all symbols of designated authority.
And the hierarchy is reinforced with the other leaders.
Partisan, the second chief, and Buffalo Medicine, the third chief, they receive medals, beads, and tobacco. And significantly, they also single out two specific warriors.
Wazingo and Second Bear.
Right. They recognize that military power is just as important as political power here. They observe these warriors wearing raven scalps.
Which Cruzet interprets as a specific symbol?
He does. He believes it signifies them as a special class of soldier, marshals, who answer only to the chief.
Understanding that chain of command would be vital in a crisis.
Paramount. If a fight breaks out, you need to know who can stop it. This wasn't just gift-giving. It was active intelligence gathering.
And that intelligence gathering leads directly to a demonstration of their own power.
Their medicine. They bring the chiefs aboard the barge to show them the technology.
The cannon, obviously. But the real showstopper is the air gun.
The air gun is a psychological weapon. The description of it being able to shoot 40 times without reloading, to people used to single-shot rifles or bows, that must have seemed like magic.
It suggests a limitless capacity for violence.
That's the entire point. It's a display meant to intimidate, to back up Clark's earlier assertion that they're not afraid.
This careful display of force, however, seems to have had the opposite effect. It seems to have invited a challenge.
It did. The Tetons had to test them. They had to see if the threat was real. The standoff that follows was almost inevitable.
It escalates so quickly. Clark has shown the chiefs the barge, and he's returning ashore in the red pirogue.
And the moment that boat touches the bank and the cable is secured, the Tetons make their move.
3 men grab the cable, and Wazingo, the warrior who'd just received a gift, wraps his arms around the mast.
It's a tactical move. It isolates Clark and his small shore party from the main barge. It's a hostage situation, essentially.
And then Partisan, the second chief, begins shouting.
He's loud, angry. And Peter, the young boy who had managed to get into the pirogue, provides the crucial translation.
He's demanding more presence.
It's no longer diplomacy. It's extortion. Partisan is calling their bluff.
Clark's response is incredibly risky.
Decisive and risky. He draws his sword, his long knife. It's a powerful visual statement.
And he delivers the ultimate threat.
He does. He says they are not squaws, but warriors, and that their great father in Washington has medicine on those boats that will wipe out 20 Sioux nations.
An existential threat. He's gambling everything.
He's betting that the demonstration of the cannon and the air gun was effective. He is projecting an absolute willingness to annihilate them.
And for a moment, it looks like it's going to backfire. Partisan springs at him.
The warriors draw their arrows. They are seconds away from a massacre.
But Clark keeps his composure. He orders his men on the shore gas, the Fields brothers, Shannon to rally together.
At the same time, Lewis is shouting commands from the barge. Reinforcements are scrambling from the other pirogue.
And then comes the checkmate.
The cannon. The muzzle is aimed directly at the crowd on the shore, and Gunner Willard is standing by with a lit match.
The ultimate visual threat. Everyone on that bank understood what that meant.
And that is what breaks the standoff. Black Buffalo, the head chief, shouts an order.
And his men drop the cable. They fall back.
Black Buffalo recognizes that the Americans are not bluffing. He sees the strong medicine, but more importantly, he sees their absolute resolve to use it.
It's an incredible moment of brinkmanship. And right after, Clark tries to de-escalate.
With amazing composure, he offers to shake hands with Black Buffalo and Partisan.
Which they refuse.
Surlily, as the journal says. They've conceded to superior force, but they haven't conceded respect.
So what does Clark do?
He just laughs. He laughs it off, orders the pirogue back to the barge, projecting this image of complete control and nonchalance.
And it works. The chiefs, having lost face, have to follow him back to the barge to re-engage.
They do. Aboard the barge, Black Buffalo tries to save face, offering an excuse.
He claims they only stopped the boat to make sure the captains would visit their village.
Right, to show the wonders to the women and children. It's a diplomatic fiction.
And Lewis agrees to stop, but he makes a point of saying his soldiers don't fear the Sioux. He accepts the excuse, but reinforces their position of strength.
And that firmness pays off. The next morning, they're shown a sign of immense respect.
Clark is carried on a decorated buffalo robe by 10 young warriors.
Lewis as well. This is the Teton way of acknowledging a powerful leader. They respect the strength and the courage the captains displayed.
The council that follows includes a feast dog meat, buffalo, and the expedition members get a chance to see the village.
And they realize that despite the claims of poverty, this is a powerful, wealthy nation.
And a brutal one. Peter and Patrick Gass make a grim discovery.
They find scalps hanging on a pole, direct evidence of recent warfare, and worse, they find captive Omaha women and children.
Peter is able to speak with them.
And he learns the truth behind the Tetons' power. They had recently raided an Omaha village downriver, burned 40 lodges, and killed 75 warriors.
This isn't just a band of river pirates.
Not at all. This is a regional military power engaged in conquest. The expedition had stumbled into the middle of a war zone and nearly become a casualty.
This new intelligence must have made them even more anxious to leave.
Absolutely. The vigilance is at an all-time high. And they receive one final warning.
During a dance held in their honor.
The captive Omaha woman, who recognizes Peter from a previous encounter, warns him in the Odo language.
What does she say?
She tells him the Sioux are bad, that they are planning a trick and will not let the boats leave. Peter immediately tells Sergeant Ordway.
And her warning is proven right almost immediately.
It is. Late that night, as the captains are leaving the lodge, the pirogue somehow runs into the barge's anchor cable and snaps it.
An accident.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
The barge is set adrift, and the 2 indigenous guests aboard immediately shout an alarm. The entire village rushes out.
It creates total chaos.
The perfect cover for what happens next. The next morning, 60 warriors are still on the bank. When Lewis tries to leave, they simply sit on the tow rope.
Physically preventing their departure.
Yes. They demand more tobacco, and Lewis has had enough.
He executes one final brilliant psychological move.
He takes a roll of tobacco and throws it at Black Buffalo's feet. He doesn't give it, he throws it. And he challenges him directly.
He questions his authority.
In the strongest possible terms. He asks if he is a great chief or if his young men laugh at him. It's a public insult to his honor that cannot be ignored.
So Black Buffalo has no choice.
He has no choice. To save face, he has to prove his authority. He grabs the tobacco, leaps ashore, and physically forces his men off the rope.
And the barge leaves immediately.
They don't waste a second. They escape, having won not through force, but through a masterful manipulation of their opponent's culture.
After that ordeal, they were desperately in need of a more welcoming reception.
And they found it with the Arikaras. They had expected them to be less hostile, and they were right.
They're met by French traders who speak the language, which helps.
It helps immensely. Tebo and gravelines. And the first impression of the Arikara people is overwhelmingly positive.
The journals describe them as tall, handsome, and the men of the Corps consider them superior in demeanor to the Sioux.
And their hospitality is just a complete reversal. Chiefs Lighting Crow, Hay, and Eagle's Feather welcome them. They give them corn, beans, squash.
But the most striking moment is their reaction to a gift of whiskey.
They refuse it. And their reasoning is so powerful. They say they are surprised that the Great Father should send us liquor to make fools of us.
It's a statement of principle.
It is. It shows a sophisticated, self-aware culture that understands the dangers of alcohol, which had already devastated other indigenous communities. It really impressed Lewis and Clark.
And during this more peaceful interlude, they continue their diplomatic efforts, this time using York.
Yes, Clark's enslaved man. His physical presence, his size and skin color were astonishing to the Arikaras.
So they play it up.
They do. York puts on a performance. He claims he was born wild, that he used to eat people, and he demonstrates his strengths by snapping a thick stick.
And the Arikaras call it great medicine.
Works. In a culture that values physical power, York becomes another example of the Corps' extraordinary medicine, a unique diplomatic asset.
But it's in this safe haven that the expedition's internal discipline starts to fray.
The case of Private John Newman. He's exhausted, cold, and he makes a fatal suggestion.
He suggests they should just stop and winter with the Arikaras instead of pushing onto the Mandan villages.
Patrick Gass overhears him and immediately recognizes it for what it is: mutiny. Insubordination on a military expedition like this could be catastrophic.
So the hammer comes down hard. Newman is arrested, court-martialed,
and sentenced to 75 lashes and suspension from the company. But the punishment itself causes another cultural problem.
Chief Akatanasha sees the whipping and begins to weep.
And he explains why. The Arikaras punish serious crimes with death, but they never whip a man. He says whipping makes women of them. It strips a man of his honor in a way that death does not.
So Clark has to explain this is the European way of enforcing discipline?
It's a stark cultural divide. And to Newman's credit, he publicly admits he deserved the punishment, which probably helps smooth things over a little. But the incident reveals these deep differences in how justice and honor are understood.
The expedition presses on, finally reaching the Mandan villages in what is now North Dakota. This is where they'll build Fort Mandan and spend the winter.
And they arrive just as the weather turns brutal. Freezing temperatures, snow, high winds. The timing was critical.
The Mandans themselves are described as odd people.
Wrinkled, short in stature, but with gentle voices. And their welcome is warm. They bring gifts of corn and vegetables.
Patrick Gass, the carpenter, gets to work immediately on the fort.
And the design is all about security, a direct lesson from their encounter with the Tetons.
It's built as a fortress, 2 rows of cabins forming an angle, a high, thick picket fence.
The walls are 18 feet high, specifically to be proof against climbing. They're preparing to be attacked.
But even with a solid fort, the conditions take a toll on the men.
The cold and damp are relentless.
Yeah.
Cruzat and Reuben Fields are suffering badly from rheumatism. Clark himself has a stiff neck that he's treating with a hot stone.
And they hire local interpreters, 2 French traders, Jassomé and Toussaint Charbonneau.
And Charbonneau brings a crucial piece of the puzzle with him, his young Shoshone wife, Sacagawea.
He also brings a dire warning about the journey ahead.
He describes the Rocky Mountains as an impassable wilderness of rock and ice, filled with hostile warriors. It confirms for the captains that they absolutely need a guide and an envoy to the Shoshone people.
During the winter, they also have to contend with geopolitical rivals.
The British, traders from the Northwest Company, show up, distributing British flags and medals.
Trying to secure allegiance and trade.
And Lewis shuts it down. He tells their captain, Francois Larocque, in no uncertain terms that this is now United States territory and unauthorized flags will not be tolerated. It's a clear assertion of sovereignty.
The Mandan chief, Black Cat, also reports that the Tetons are still a threat.
Yes, and worse. There are rumors spreading that the fort is not for defense, but a prelude to the Europeans enslaving the Mandans.
So the captains have to engage in constant diplomacy to reassure their hosts.
It's a delicate balance. But their single greatest asset that winter turns out to be John Shields and his forge.
The blacksmith.
To the local people, his ability to work iron is great medicine. It's like magic. And it becomes the economic engine of the expedition.
How so?
He repairs their tools, their weapons. But more importantly, he takes scraps of sheet iron and forges them into highly valuable trade goods. Hide scrapers, arrow points, small axes.
And he trades these for food.
For massive amounts of corn and pumpkins. He single-handedly ensures their food supply through the entire brutal winter. His forge was more valuable than any diplomatic speech.
And throughout this winter, Sacagawea's importance becomes more and more apparent.
The bird woman. She's described as gentle, but incredibly industrious. She's out on the frozen river in a hide boat, carrying 100-pound loads of meat.
But in February, she falls desperately ill.
It's a crisis. She's groaning, delirious. And Lewis knows that if she dies, the mission's chance of getting through the mountains dies with her.
He tries his European medicine, but nothing works.
So in desperation, he listens to Jassom's suggestion for a local remedy.
The rattlesnake rattle.
He takes a dried specimen, crumbles the rattle into water, and gives it to her.
And it works.
It seems to. The illness subsides, and on February 11th, she gives birth to her son, Jean-Baptiste.
Little Toussaint.
A moment of relief.
Oh.
But it's short-lived. The Sioux attack again.
They ambush a hunting party, steal all their meat. Lewis leads a punitive expedition, but can't catch them.
But the message is clear. The Sioux have declared open season. They will kill the Europeans on sight from now on.
So come spring, as the ice breaks up in April 1805, they are more than ready to move on.
Yes, into the next phase, the realm of the grizzly bear. The first step is to send the barge back downriver to St. Louis.
This is their first major report back to Jefferson.
It is. It's loaded with maps, reports, animal specimens, artifacts, and Peter's bear head, a symbol of what they've already overcome. John Newman, the disgraced private, is sent back with them.
The party heading upstream is now leaner. 33 individuals plus Peter.
6 canoes, 2 pirogues. This is a team that will go into territory completely unknown to Europeans.
And as they push into what is now Montana, they meet the creature that will define this leg of the journey.
The grizzly bear. The white bear, as they first called it.
Lewis and Driard kill the first one. It's about 300 pounds, but its toughness is what shocks them.
Lewis wounds it, and it still chases him for 80 yards before Driard can finally bring it down. It's a predator on a completely different level than anything they've known.
And they just keep getting bigger and tougher. Clark and Reuben Fields kill one that's over 8 feet long.
And it takes 9 shots to kill it. 9. These encounters force them to change all their procedures. No one hunts alone anymore.
William Bratton's encounter is probably the most terrifying.
He's chased for 1.5 miles by a wounded bear after his rifle misfires. They find it later, shot clean through the chest, still trying to dig itself a bed to die in. It was almost unstoppable.
And it's in this exact environment with this new terrifying threat that Peter decides he has to prove himself.
He's worried he'll be sent down river like Newman. He needs to show he's a contributor, not a dependent.
So he sees his chance. A large brown bear on an ice floe.
And against everyone's shouts, he runs out alone. Just him and his bow, with the iron-tipped arrows shields had made for him.
A bow against a grizzly.
An incredible risk. He hits it twice, and the bear charges him.
He dodges the charge and fires a third arrow into its ribs. But it's the last shot that's so remarkable.
As the bear recovers, he takes careful aim and puts his final arrow directly into the nape of the neck. It severs the spinal cord, kills it instantly.
An act of incredible skill and nerve.
It secures his place. Sergeant Gass and the Mandan chief, Little Raven, praise him. And Lewis seals it by declaring they'll send the bear's head to the president. Peter has become a hunter.
By June of 1805, the expedition is exhausted. They're hauling boats against a powerful current through terrain covered in prickly pear cactus.
But they can see their goal. The Rocky Mountains, the Shining Mountains, are visible in the west.
And then they hit the ultimate dilemma. The river splits into 2 massive forks.
And choosing the wrong one could end the expedition. It would mean wasting the entire season, getting trapped in the mountains for winter.
The French boatmen, the experienced rivermen like Cruzat and Driard, they are certain the North Fork is the true Missouri.
Because it's swift and muddy, just like the river they've known.
But the captains disagree. They favor the South Fork.
They're using scientific deduction. The South Fork is clearer, its bed is made of round stones, and it flows directly from the mountains. It has the characteristics of a mountain stream.
They can't afford to guess, so they send out scouting parties.
Lewis scouts the North Fork and confirms it veers away from the mountains. Clark scouts the south. It's on his trip that Reuben Fields gets treed by a grizzly for an hour. The danger is constant.
And based on this scouting, Lewis and Clark make their decision. They overrule their experienced boatmen.
A huge moment of leadership. They declare the South Fork is the correct route. They name the North Fork Maria's River and prepare to go south.
How do the men take it?
Patrick Gass speaks for them. He says they will follow the captain's command, but he admits they are worried. Worried that there will be no Columbia River on the other side. They are proceeding on pure faith in their leaders.
And to move faster, they need to lighten their load. They prepare a cache.
A brilliant frontier storage method. A deep kettle-shaped hole lined with hides to store all their heavy equipment and the red pirogue.
And they're careful to hide all the dirt by dumping it in the river so the spot can't be found.
A very clever precaution. But as they're making these preparations, another crisis hits.
Sacagawea falls ill again.
Gravely ill. And Clark's journal entry is filled with anxiety. He writes that the entire success of the expedition now depends on her recovery. They cannot find the Shoshone without her.
She's treated at a sulfur spring they find nearby, and it seems to help almost immediately.
A stroke of incredible luck. And just as she's recovering, they get the news they've been waiting for.
John Shields arrives from Lewis's advance party.
With the message, Lewis has found the Great Falls.
The confirmation they chose the right river.
A moment of huge relief. But when Lewis himself returns, his stories are just unbelievable.
A string of near-death experiences.
In just a few days of scouting, he'd cured himself of a serious illness with chokecherry tea, fought off a grizzly bear that had forced him into the river with his spontoon.
A spontoon, which is essentially a short spear or polearm.
Yes. And then on the same day, he'd been charged by 3 buffalo bulls at once and woken up to find he'd been sleeping next to a 4-foot rattlesnake.
It's just an incredible testament to the relentless danger of this place.
It is. And now, the roaring of the falls is audible. They've found their landmark.
But that sound, as welcome as it is, also signifies their next great obstacle.
Exactly. They cannot continue by boat. They now face a grueling portage around the Great Falls before they can even begin their ascent into the Shining Mountains. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed learning something new. That's all for now, but in case you didn't notice, there are a lot more episodes on this subject available in this channel. If you're enjoying these historical podcasts, please like and subscribe and share with other history buffs. While this is an AI recording, the research that has gone into this production is comprehensive and focuses on very specific moments in history designed to bring as much detail to the listener as possible. Thanks again for listening in.